just with, that's supposed to be something that we're doing on a day-to-day basis leading up into the new year. So everybody can get comfortable with it.
Yeah. So Marcia, again. Oh,
we can't hear you now, Candace.
You can't hear me?
Well, now we did.
Lakira, I think needs to go on mute. Somebody's phone needs to go on mute.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So again, typically when I make those phone calls, it's just, hey, how are you? I was thinking about you. What's going on in your family? I'm trying to collect more data. If I saw on Facebook they got a new puppy, I'm going to say, I saw you got a new puppy. Tell me about your puppy. What'd you name him? And all that kind of thing. But I don't typically bring up real estate unless they do. But if they say, how's the market? Then I say, oh, still a seller's market. We are still really being proactive for buyers and sellers. And what, do you have any specific questions for me? And that's kind of how I handle that. And then I go into whatever they want to talk about. Does that make sense?
Yes. So okay. What other scripts? Because I've role play it's buyers or for sale by owners, but I feel like it's not really something that's specific for a lot of buyers. And I kind of definitely feel like if you haven't grown your business to a certain extent, it's going to be kind of hard to, just go into sellers that I feel as though a lot of scripts are based off of. And so I would love to, I guess, know exactly how we should call our database for people who are potential buyers, that it's not really scripts that's like telling you exactly how to go about it to build your business.
Yeah, I know what you're saying, and it's absolutely. Yesterday in the class that Bill Kennedy did, he was going over 24 topics in the Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and one of the things that was in there that I've always taken is real estate is part art and part science. So you can. The art part is the part where, Marcia, you talk to people every day. So it's just using those skills, that skill set. So if you're calling your database, and that somebody raised their hand, they're in your pipeline, for instance, and they've raised their hand and said at some point they want to be buying or selling, I'm going to bring that up. And I don't have a script for it, but I would just say, hey, last time we spoke, you mentioned that this was the year you wanted to buy a home. Is that still the case? And
well, I guess not to cut you off, but just being that those are like realistic situations that I feel as though that we go through, is it a way that we can, like when we role play, make up the situation so that we can be prepared for, I'm pretty good with obstacle handling. So like if I call someone and something come up, but a lot of people are not good with obstacle handling because they haven't been in business long enough to know exactly what the next conversation should be. And the conversation is kind of cut short. So it's kind of like outside of the script, how can we better prepare people to speak with buyers if there's not a specific script for it?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Excellent. Sorry. Yes, in my room. Hang on. Somebody's just texting me about the huddle in my Zoom. Yeah, so let's practice that then. Let's do that. Absolutely. And I appreciate that you brought that up, because I know that that's kind of a question for people is, what do I say when? So let's go ahead and role play that. Who would like to? Lorinda, do you want to role play that? I know yesterday you raised your hand first, so I was going to give you the chance to role play. Or do you and Marcia want to role play?
I'm okay with role playing with Lorinda if she wants to. She could just let me know which role she would like to.
Okay. Lorinda, are you on?
Yes, I'm here. I'm sorry. I said I can be the person that you're calling, because I'm not familiar with that particular script either. So it'll be a learning experience for me too.
It's not a script, so we're gonna have to just kind of role play it based off of
Okay.
how. Okay. All right. So I'm calling you, correct?
Correct.
All right. Ring, ring, ring. All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Ring, ring, ring.
Hello?
Hey, is this Lorinda?
Hey, yeah, who is this?
This is Markia with Keller Williams Realty. We actually met at a convention a few months ago in Atlanta.
Well, hey, Markia, how's it going?
It's going good. I know last time we was talking, having small talk, you mentioned that you were looking to purchase this year, and I am just giving you a call just to try to get more information about it and see if that's still a part of your goal for this new year.
Yes, that is still our goal, and thanks so much for giving me a call. I've met a lot of people at that conference. You're the one with the smile, right?
Yes, yes.
Well, that's good. Listen, we are still looking to move. Right now, our plan is to move in September.
Okay.
It's January, and we've already reached out to a lender, so we're just working on a couple of things that we need to get on our credit.
Okay, no, that's perfect. I think I remember you saying September. And just remind me, are you in a lease agreement right now?
Yes, we
Okay.
Our lease is up for the most part around August, so we may do 1 month depending on when we can close. And if we find something sooner, we're willing to break the lease.
Okay, perfect. And is it typical kind of like 60-day notice and a 1-month termination fee if you were to terminate your lease agreement if you found the perfect home for you?
Wow, yes, that's exactly what it is for us.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I just want to go ahead and just fill my database, like with your email address, and that way I can, I know you said you reached out to a lender. I can be in contact with the lender as well too. That way we're on the same page. For when I call you, maybe around June time frame, because you have kids as well too, right?
Well, no, well, yes and no. So I'm a blended family, and so
Okay.
my husband's kids are living with their mother. So I don't have a full time where I need to be mindful of the school district.
Would the school system kind of still play a part where you will need to be somewhere before school start?
No, actually, they'll be in school in their mother's district. So.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. Okay. Yeah. So what's your email address? Your email and mailing address. That way I can go ahead and add that into my database.
So the mailing address is 123 Main Street.
Okay.
In College Park.
And what's the
303.
All right. And what is your email address?
The email address is first name FES, which is
Phone froze, or is it my phone?
I think we lost you, Lorinda.
email down. Oh, you really? What's going on? What's going on? Okay, give me a second.
Okay.
Am I back now? Okay, perfect.
Yeah.
So I had a question. So at the conference, I was going through, we were networking and I was doing information.
Lorinda, I think we're having a
in a
hard
bad
time
spot?
hearing you, Lorinda.
Say that
Am
one
I
more
in a
time.
bad spot? Okay, so at the conference, am I coming through clearly?
A little bit.
Okay, so at the conference, I put my email down. Okay, I don't know what happened. I must be in a bad zone. I'm driving, so I apologize.
Well,
Okay, I think we can hear you better now.
Okay, so real quick, I put my email address down for several vendors, and now they're sending me things every other day. That won't be you, will it?
No, it will not. This will strictly be,
Perfect.
like I said, I'm going to send you an email, and that way you can maybe just send me the lender information. That way I can just kind of get familiar with them as well too, because that's a pretty pivotal part of the home buying process. And I just want to make sure that you all are on the right track to meet your goal that you have for the year. So I definitely won't be emailing you. If anything, I'll kind of maybe send you some quarterly updates. I also would like to get some idea of some areas that you'll like to be set in. Once I kind of get with the lender, kind of see exactly what you all may be pre-approved for. That way I can kind of build some data along the way. I like to set people up for a soft MLS, maybe like a monthly checkup with an automatic newsletter that have different homes in different areas. And that way you and your husband can go through, you can like them, and I can kind of get an idea of the style house that you all are looking for. So once that time comes, we can kind of jump right into it.
Oh, that sounds so wonderful.
Okay,
I like that approach. I like that approach a lot better than some of the other approaches I've been experiencing.
All right.
That is really great.
The emails that you receive from me will be relevant to what you're looking for. And like I said, I will be in contact. I'll put you on my calendar to contact you around May or June. That way in May, I can kind of touch bases with the lender. In June, we can maybe start looking at some data that we save, and then we can kind of go from there. How does that sound?
That sounds great, but with one caveat. If you are seeing the market turn where once we have our discussion about where I want to be, if you start to see items or homes in those areas, I would love for you to contact me a lot sooner. And maybe we can work on doing something sooner.
All right, that's great. And then that database that I'm going to set you up on, you'll see the homes that's becoming available. So if you see something, the way that the portal work is, if you like something, love something, you can actually put that activity in there and I can see it. So if I see that you're starting to have a lot of activity with loving something, then I'll make sure I give you a call and see if you want to act on it so that we can just maybe terminate your lease agreement early.
Okay, that's perfect. I appreciate you.
Linda, it was a pleasure speaking with you, and I look forward to getting you into home ownership this year.
Yay! Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And that's the way it sometimes unfolds. It's just a conversation and not scripted. The one thing that I would caution against is database is a real, that's our term. It's like when I was a flight attendant, we used to call airplanes equipment. It's a little off-putting to be added to somebody's database. It's like you're collecting people. So I would just use a different term for that. I'd probably couch that in a different way, but overall, really, really excellent. And you kind of hesitated when you heard database, didn't you, Lorinda?
Yeah, just a little bit, but because I've been exposed to it, I know that's not what you meant. So, but yeah, it kind of caught me off guard just a little bit, but no, it was perfect. Yeah. To me, it was.
Yeah.
The conversation rolls. She asked proper questions, engaging. So yeah.
Yeah, and I think database makes it seem less personal.
Yes,
thank you. Use that phrase and just, maybe how about if I send you some things, without using the word database in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you've got, for instance, and I want to say again, that was really fantastic, Markia and Lorinda, both of you. I mean, it was just really fantastic. It was just natural. And I love that. One of the things that you can also say is you've got all those consumer disclosures that you need to send, right? The ABCs of agency, the protect yourself when buying a home, protect yourself when buying a home in an HOA or a community association. There's all kinds of disclosures that you can send, and I like to send those out. No, I don't like to bombard people with those and do them all at once. I like to send them out like one a day. And if you're doing the 8x8, which is one touch every week for 8 weeks, you can send out something every week, and that gives somebody time to digest those. And I'll also have a discussion at some point with them saying that, dude, I want to make sure that you understand. I'm going to send you some consumer disclosures or consumer information for your review. Please do read through them because this is a big, important decision for you. And while I can be a resource for you, due diligence really falls on you because ultimately you're the one buying the home. So I want to make sure that when I send you the covenants and restrictions, and this is farther down than where we are in this conversation, when I said you covenants and restrictions, I want to make sure that you do take time to read those, because it could impact what you can do and not do in your neighborhood in the future, especially if they've mentioned something like, well, we want to buy a home and then rent it out in a year. You want to make sure that there are no rental restrictions, but that's their job to do, not yours.
Okay, that's good that you said that, Candace, because I always are confused about when to send those other disclosures outside the buyer brokerage agreement. So you can send those as soon as possible without even having a buyer brokerage agreement signed, or what exactly step would you send those?
Yeah, those are just informational, and somebody's taken the time to create them, so they are important. But I would just say, and I would ask the question. I would say, you mentioned that you're receiving emails that you don't appreciate. How often would you like for me to email you? Because there are some consumer information pieces that I'd love for you to see, because they're important and they'll give you some good information about your home, and let that person dictate it. So if she says, oh, go ahead and send them all to me now, you can send them all now. If she says, well, one email a week would be fine, or, whatever they say, I'd leave it up to them. I'd ask that question about what their comfort level is, so that you don't have to guess at it.
And Candace, you brought up a good thing, a good point. It amazes me how many buyer agents of listings I've had do not even ask for the covenants and restrictions of a home that's in an HOA.
Oh boy. And
it dumbfounds me. I mean, that's one of my special steps, is that I always ask for that within like 3 days of binding agreement date, so my client can, or whatever, so my client can have time to read it before the end of due diligence, to make sure that, like you said, that this is a place they want to live.
Mm-hmm. And in addition to that, I mean, I like to ask for, there's 3 things I ask for with respect to that. One of them is the covenants and restrictions. 2 is the budget, if they have one. Some smaller communities don't have, they don't really have anything formalized, and minutes from the last 3 meetings, if there are any. And I learned this years and years ago when I was talking with a friend of mine who lived in White Columns, which is an expensive golf community in Milton, Georgia. And the golf club had basically bankrupted, and so they were giving people like $10,000 assessments. It was crazy, and he was furious. But if you were buying a home in that community at that time and the golf was important to you, that would have been something important to know. And if the minutes from the meetings leading up to that had any indication that there was going to be some trouble in the future, that's where you'd find that information. Or you could find out that 6 months ago they were talking about, maybe they only have meetings every quarter, but 6 months ago they were talking about adding street lights. Well, that could be an assessment coming up that you need to be aware of. You also want to make sure in their budget that they have enough reserves, so that if they do decide to, and I know another place over on Columns Drive, I sold a home over there, one of the townhomes over there. And the reason the person was moving was because first they assessed them for roofs, and that was about, I don't know, $6,000. And then they assessed them all for new driveways, and that was about $8,000. So it was about $15,000 in a 2-year period. And she was furious. So she wanted out of there because, I was like, well, what else can they assess at this point? But she wanted out of there. So making sure you get those the budget and the minutes, if there are any, is also a good idea.
Excellent point. Excellent point.
Thank you. Anybody else want to role play anything, or do you have any comments about or questions about how that went with Markia and Lorinda?
I do have a question. I know in our scenario, we met at a conference. If someone doesn't remember you, do you push the line of questioning to try and nudge them into remembering you, or just, kind of matter of fact, oh, well, so many people there, I'm sure, or some kind of comment. I don't have anything in mind right now.
So who, excuse me, I still got a little bit of this cold. I forgot who it was that was on Facebook, and they said, tell me how we met and I'll send you something personal about my life. Do you all remember that? And so if you're the realtor and you can't remember where you met somebody, you can just say, you know what, I so remember you, and I remember I enjoyed talking with you, but where was that we met? And see if that person remembers. You know, I don't ever try and pretend.
I have something maybe with that. I guess with us supposed to be calling people in our database with the new year, maybe you can say like, hey, I don't remember where we met, but I had your number and I'm going through my phone, you know, clearing out some numbers for the new year or something. And, you know, I remember, or are you interested or something? And buying.
Oh, and the other thing is, you know, whenever I put somebody in my phone in the notes section, I put like if it's a service provider that I could maybe refer to clients in the future, I put who recommended them. So I'll know, you know, if I need to ask that person any questions, if they've had any issues. And so you do the same thing, you know, when you've met people, when you get their number, you know, put something quickly in the notes so that you know where in the notes section of your phone, so you know where you met them.
Great point. Great point. Yeah, and when you call people, you know, the most important lesson I've ever learned is always make it about the other. So I'm not calling, when I call, I try and shift my mind from something I want to just being about them, because people can tell. People can. I mean, you've had phone calls from people, and you know, sometimes I'm like, well, just get to the point because I know you want something. And it drives me crazy when they're pretending something else. So I just try and always, you know, if I want something from somebody, if I'm calling because I need something because we're in a transaction, then I'll get right to the point, or I'll say, hey, you know, I just wanted to make sure that before we, well, this is not happening so much in this market, but before we write this contract, I need to get the pre-approval letter from you. In this market, I'd probably say I need to get the underwriting done, but you know, when you need to get something from somebody, just ask for it. But if you're calling to just build that relationship, be about that person. Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yeah. Anybody want to role play anything specific? Lorinda, you said raised your hand yesterday. Is there anything you'd like to role play? And Marquia, I just want to say thanks again, because I think that's a gray area that a lot of people struggle with. So I'm really glad you brought that up, and I'm really, really thankful for the way that you role played that with Lorinda. That was excellent.
So yesterday, we were talking about, my concern was, how do you reach out to somebody you don't know? And ironically enough, the role play that we just did was one of those situations. Like I met an insurance agent, and I wanted to, you know, kind of reconnect and put them on some kind of program. Not so much a program, but, you know, just engage them and be able to add them to my database. And so this role play really does help, because I did meet them at in a conference, but it was a home builders conference, and they were selling homeowners insurance. So this will really work.
Yeah, and you know, in that case, you're building a business to business relationship as well. So it's always appropriate to say, you know, how can I support you in your business? What can I do to help you? And be that person, be the person, you know, for instance, I was talking with Bill about building on my referral business. And he said, what about giving a referral? You know, give a referral, receive a referral. So I love that you could give referrals to somebody. And in fact, I'm meeting with, do y'all remember Jonathan? I'm meeting with him on the 19th, just because he's doing some new things in his business, and I'd like to get some referrals from him. So that was my conversation with him, is how can I support you in your business this year? Yeah. People appreciate that. And when you become known for that, oh my goodness. Okay, anybody else? All of a sudden, Lorinda, we can't hear you.
Oh, I apologize. I had you on mute while I was listening to you.
There we go. Anybody else want to role play anything else? Do you remember when Anthony, go ahead, Markia?
Not just say with the respects of, kind of like what I expressed, with a lot of people wanting to contact people who potentially want to buy. Do you have any other like advice for them that may be struggling with what to say if they don't have any experience to know exactly how the call should go, being that there's not scripts that's like around it?
So you're talking about somebody that they've run into that wants to buy in the future?
Yeah, just calling people in that database that I just feel like a lot of people are kind of scared to make calls because it's not as, personally, I don't feel like it's scripts that's specific to if it's not a for sale by owner or expired or, like just outside things, and people can't come up because they maybe haven't been in the business long enough as to how they come up with the conversations to, I guess, overcome their fear to make them feel comfortable in the phone call.
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. Thank you for bringing that up too. And Pam, I'd love for you to weigh in here. There's a couple of things. One, I'm almost always, when I'm going through my phone and I see somebody I haven't talked to in a long time, I'm almost always going to call them and say, oh my gosh, I saw your name in my phone and I realized it has been years since we talked. I was thinking about you and just wanted to know, how is everything going? And then I let them talk and I listen and I ask questions. But I turn it always to them. So I don't have to be the one who is I can guide the conversation by asking questions without having to say a whole lot. So I can let the other person talk. And remember, the person who talks most thinks the other person is the most interesting. So that's kind of how I do that. I'll always
people love
refer
to talk about themselves.
Thank you. That's what I'm saying. Thank you. Pam, how do you do that when you haven't talked to somebody in a long time and you've been remiss or you're hesitant to call somebody?
Yeah, I do something similar. I just basically say, hey, I've been thinking about you and just thought I'd pick up the phone and see if you had a few minutes to chat, or see if you had a few minutes to catch up. And, I've got some people I call every year on their birthday. We hardly talk in between, but they are always so appreciative that I remembered their birthday and called them on their birthday.
I love
that. I need to get better about that and do that for more people, honestly.
Yeah, I actually, I don't know if I can share my screen. I bought the Dutch, my husband's from Holland, and the Dutch people have something called a birthday calendar. I don't know if you can see this, but it just lists the month. And then it has the days of the month, and you write in the person's name on the date of their birthday. So every month you can see whose birthdays are coming up at a glance. And I just love this visual reminder of birthdays coming up. So that's a great way to call people. You can find out birthdays on Facebook sometimes. But sometimes you can just call and say, I'll text people. Like I did this in December. I texted just about everybody in my database and said, hey, I don't have your birthday. When's your birthday? And by the way, could you say, and this is great if you can't remember their kids and their dogs and their husband's name. And would you send me everybody in your family's birthdays, please? And then they have to say, Larry is on the 25th. Larry Jr. is on the 28th of May. And so that's a good way to collect some data from people. But if you're going to collect birthdays, you need to do something with them, because otherwise they're like, well, why did she ask me for my birthday? And I have never heard from her again.
Yeah, exactly. And a lot of times the new year is a good time, to start that. I did that one new year. I called, a bunch of people, like you said, I had found a bunch of them on Facebook, and I went through Facebook and, put those people in my regular calendar of when their birthday was, and get a reminder a few days before. Then I called people and, and that was part of my conversation with them. Well, I'm trying to become more intentional about, keeping it up with people and, and remembering important dates to them. When's your birthday?
I love that. And I remember in the Gene Rivers business planning, he said something that in January, it's a great time to reach out to people and say, you know, if you've been in business for a year, you can say, you know, I worked really hard this past year on my business to improve a lot of what I was doing. And I'd love to share with you some of that. And of course you have to, you know, you have to have some things to share. But you know, he just said, you reach out to everybody and just say, you know, I'd love to hear what you think about some of the improvements I've made. And get people's opinions. But the most important thing, Markia, back to your point about when people are new and they don't know what to say, is it's really just pretend that you're, you know, if you can take your, if and this is just takes time, I think, but if you can take your desperation, take the desperation out of the equation of wanting something so badly and trying so hard to get clients, it'll come naturally. And when you call people, to just be human, I mean, pretend like you're calling a family member, or pretend like you're calling a friend, and just
go ahead. I'm sorry.
treat them, you know, treat them with the golden rule or the platinum rule. That's the secret. There's really no secret except just to be nice and interested and curious about their lives and caring.
You know, and there's the Ford rule, you know, that's a good way to you know, stay in touch with people. Or is there anyone on here that's not familiar with Ford?
Why don't you just say it anyway?
Well, I was just going, oh, let me see if I remember all of them correctly, because I never get through all of them. But Ford stands for family, occupation, recreation, and what's the D? Dreams, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Yep, that's it.
Yeah. So, you know, you just, if you need prompts for questions, you think, oh, so, you know, how did your family fare during the holidays? You know, were there any, you know, maybe you could say, like, for my family, you know, everybody wasn't able to get together because some of them were sick. You know, I hope everyone was well, especially with this new COVID variant out there. Or, you know, you just use different things like that, you know, to start a conversation with them.
Yep.
You know, and then you can go into, yeah. Well, how's your work going? Are you still doing whatever you may know that they're doing? And if not, you just say, and how's work going? And they will usually tell you. You'll be able to glean what they do if you don't know it off the top of your head.
Yeah, and I like to, this was something I learned from a book I read. I think that I talked about on here, How to Talk to Anybody About Anything. If you don't know about their work, it's appropriate to say, well, how are you spending the bulk of your time these days, in case they've lost a job or something like that. So if you don't know what they're doing, just ask that question instead of you know, like, where are you working? Because you don't want to hear them say, oh, I lost my job. That you don't want them to associate that with you. But yeah, the Ford model that's the way to go. And that's a good script, actually. If you're looking for a script on how to call people, is asking them about their family, their occupation, their recreation, and their dreams. And I think it's, if you're going to be intentional about making phone calls, try and find them on Facebook, because looking at their picture sometimes helps. And also you can see kind of what's been going on with them. You don't have to refer to it unless you want to, but it gives you a little bit of background for somebody, you know, and you can kind of tell. I mean, I was on one of my past clients' sites, and she lost her dad 3 weeks ago. So I wouldn't have known that, and I'm certainly glad I didn't call to find that out, but I'll send her a sympathy card. And, you know, I mean, it's just, people post stuff on Facebook that you can always talk about.
Yeah. And you mentioned sending her a sympathy card. You know, have a collection of cards that you can send out easily at a moment's notice, like that, you know, sympathy, birthday, maybe baby, you know, a variety, or just some plain ones that, you know, you can write anything in them that you want, and make it, you know, have it ready so you don't have to go, oh, I need to go pick up one.
Yeah, that's part of preparation for the year, I think. is exactly that, Pam. Have all of that. Go ahead and buy, a couple of books of stamps so that you have stamps, especially if you're sending out golden letters, you want to have all those supplies. But unless you're hand delivering your golden letters, but it's so not productive to have to go to the store and buy a card and then go to the post office and buy a stamp or pay extra for it at the grocery store. It's just so much easier when the minute you think of it, you can reach in your drawer and you've got a card there for somebody. I love that you said that.
Yeah, and for those of you, I don't know if Bill's mentioned this lately, but he and I use Note Card Cafe, and you can get a variety of note cards there, and like on the back it can show if you want, and you can get them, they have bundles at good prices, or you can just order specifically what you want. I go ahead and if I don't order, when you order the bundle, you can't do this, but when I order more individually, I have them go ahead and put my return address on the top of the envelope. But you can, add money like 5 cents per card to go toward, mosquito nets in Africa or something like that. So it shows if your clients turn it over, they'll notice that, hey, you're helping contribute to somebody else. Yeah. But you get like, I forget the numbers, 36 cards for like $20 or something.
Yeah, they're like 30 cents a card. It's really inexpensive. It's a great site. Note Card Cafe. All right, well, it's just about time. Does anybody else have any questions, or do we want to go to our one things? Okay, let's go to our one things. All right, Pam, we'll start with you. What's your one thing for today?
It's, let's see, business related one thing, I believe. I will be getting in touch with a couple of people that I've been trying to get in touch with. And, I'm going to text them this time. I've left messages, haven't heard back. And so I'm going to try texting, see if that gets in touch with them, see if that gets through them. Excellent. But my other thing is start on some stuff for my taxes.
Love that. Lorinda, what's your one thing?
So I'm actually driving on my way to my first 5 years of BBA sign.
Yay.
So that's my one thing for right now.
Excellent.
So I'm excited, nervous, but excited. I'm glad I had this whole team huddle this morning to
You'll do great. You'll do great. All right, Leslie.
Actually, I just had a closing, and to everybody, I have COVID, but
yay!
I'm in my 5th day of quarantine, so I feel better. But there's a gentleman that's in the same neighborhood as my last closing. He wants to have a meeting with me, so I'm setting that meeting up with him today.
Fantastic.
That's awesome. Not that you have COVID, but the business stuff.
Yeah, the business part.
Right, the business part.
Tracy, what about you? What's your one thing?
I'm going to make some care calls, and then I have to take my car through inspection.
Ebony, hi. What's your one thing? We'll circle back to you, okay? Jaleesa, what's your one thing?
My one thing for today is to follow up with a few people I met yesterday and the day before. I basically just want to get them on some smart plans, get them educated, and other than that, get myself better. I got sick again last night, so I'm in bed, but I'm gonna still continue to work from bed.
It's going around, I'll tell you what.
Yeah, it is.
I hope you feel better. Everybody who's on here who's dealing with something, I hope we all feel better. Markia, what's your one thing?
I had 3 fire consultations last night. I have one today. So I am to get with my assistant to come up with a follow-up plan for my consultations and a plan of action for entering them into my CRM for me. So just coming up with a system for follow-ups for my consultations.
Fantastic. Ebony, can you talk yet?
She posted in the chat that she can't unmute for some reason.
Oh, okay. Okay. Do you want to post in chat, Ebony, what your one thing is?
Yeah, I suggested she posted in the chat, but she may not, be at a point where she's able to do that, or she could be typing it while we're chatting. There she is. She says she's going to door knock the neighborhood. She says,
Fantastic.
and then she said, I'm touring in. I'm not sure what that meant.
Okay, fantastic. All right. Well, my one thing is care calls today. I'm reaching out to my whole database. I reached out to just about everybody in December, but I'm reaching out again in the new year. So that's part of what I'm doing. So if anybody needs any help, just call. We'll be here today. And then I'll see you in this same room tomorrow morning. And Ebony says, I have a client who wants to see a house and she's door knocking for that area as well. Fantastic, Ebony. Thank you all for being on here. Like I said, if you have any questions or you need help with anything, just let us know, okay?
All right. Have a great day.
Thanks, bye.
Bye.